So I want to begin with the story about Dr. Don Hamby. He was a person who was instrumental in shaping my well-being, my character, and purpose when I was a young adult. So Doc Hamby, as we all called him, was the superintendent of my school in my small hometown in the Ozarks region of Missouri. In addition to being a K-12 educator, he was a farmer and a military veteran. He was a plain-spoken guy, humble, hardworking, honest, just one of those salt of the earth kind of guys. So I worked at the school district for several summers during high school and college doing summer construction projects. And I always noticed how Doc Hamby spoke to people, whether it be the janitorial staff, a faculty member, a school board member, or even me. He treated everybody with the same level of respect. And even though he regularly had to make tough decisions himself, being a superintendent turns out is not an easy job, he was regularly respected by seemingly everyone. And in addition to being a person of high character, he had a strong sense of his why. He believed that his work as an educator was a calling to his Christian service. He not only had a strong sense of purpose, but he was instrumental in shaping my. As I was going through an early career crisis when I was in my first year of grad school, he spoke some truth to me about my gifts and challenged me to consider a career in, you're not going to believe this, of all things, educational leadership. And I have to admit that that did not sound the least bit appealing as a 23-year-old. I'm 42 now, the verdict is still out. But he saw some things in me that I didn't yet see in myself, and he ultimately helped shape my vocation and sense of why in significant ways. And I'm confident that if we took the time today, each of you can name people in your lives that helped shape your well-being, your character, your purpose, your vocation as a young adult. So in fact, I invite you all to pause for just a little bit. We're going to do this Mr. Rogers style. All right? I want everybody just to think to themselves for just, we'll give us 30 seconds. Think about a person who helped shape your vocation, your character, your purpose, your well-being as a young adult. Everybody just pause and do that. So I share this story with you and have you pause for a second, not just to have us have a reflection about our backgrounds. I mean, that's important. It's good to think about the good old days. But I did that to demonstrate in a very personal way the profound impact that educators can have on young adults. And so during the session, I want to provide you all with an overview of our campus-wide whole person formation efforts at Belmont and how we work to ensure that all our students leave Belmont with a strong sense of well-being, character, and purpose that leads to flourishing lives. And by sharing a case study of what's going on at Belmont, my hope is that it will help you think about your own institutional efforts and how they might align with LearningWell's mission to ensure that every student is prepared to flourish in work and life. So let me tell you what I'm not going to try to do over the next 20 minutes. I'm not going to try to pretend that we have it all figured out or that we don't have room to improve. Quite the contrary, believe me. Nor am I going to pretend that everything that we do at Belmont would work at your institution or vice versa. Instead, I hope to spark some conversations and some thinking that will lead all of us to reflect on how we can deepen our commitment to align with LearningWell's mission. So with that, I'm just going to give you a quick roadmap of what I hope to cover over the next 20 minutes. So I'm going to give you a brief history of formative education at Belmont. And then I'm going to provide an overview of the Belmont Formation Collaborative. That's our hub for formative education at Belmont. And I'll also talk about our broader framework for formative education at Belmont, the SOUL framework. I'll also provide just a few examples of student formation efforts at Belmont, quickly discuss a few lessons learned, nod to the future, where we want to go, and then open it up for dialogue. So Belmont University has long been a champion of formative education and the holistic formation of its students. It was founded in 1890, right? Just think about this for a second. Who founded it and when this was? By two young women. They founded the Belmont College for Young Women. It was Susan Heron and Ida Hood. It welcomed its first class of 90 students into a program that was explicitly focused on formative education. When the college merged with Nashville's prestigious Ward Seminary for young ladies to form the Ward Belmont College just a few decades later, the mission of educating students in a holistic manner was further reinforced. Belmont's growth continued throughout the 20th century. The Tennessee Baptist Convention purchased the institution in 1951, forming Belmont College. In the subsequent years, it enhanced its academic footprint through the creation of innovative programs like music business, all while remaining anchored in an implicit commitment to formative education in a Christian context. From the 1990s to 2021, Belmont experienced substantial growth, transitioning from Belmont College to Belmont University, launching new colleges of law, pharmacy, architecture and design, and art, nearly tripling its enrollment to almost 9,000 students, and investing over $1 billion in construction and campus development. In addition, we had the opportunity to host two presidential debates on campus, one in 2008, and you can see a picture of the bell tower there from that debate, and then one again in 2020. Throughout this period, Belmont became an ecumenical Christian institution with no denominational ties. And through this transition, a focus remained on forming the whole student. In 2021, Greg Jones, who you're going to hear from tomorrow, became president of Belmont University. With his leadership came a much more intentional focus on formative education. And I'll briefly break down how this focus has evolved over the last almost 5 years into 3 chapters. So Greg's vision led to explicitly naming a commitment to formation in a number of ways, through our university's mission and vision statements, and even adding explicit language about our priorities in the university seal, which you can see on the screen. It also led to a new strategic plan that included whole person formation and its cornerstones of character, purpose, wisdom, and transformational mindset as one of 5 institutional priorities. Now, we were very fortunate to obtain external grant funding that allowed us to try a lot of things over the next few years that we wouldn't have been able to without such funding. So we engaged in a lot of experimentation in the formative education space. And this is where I admit that some things worked and some didn't. By 2024, we were able to secure additional grant funding, which paired with added institutional investment, helped create the Belmont Formation Collaborative, which launched in January of 2025. This office, which I have the privilege to lead, was created to broaden and deepen our institutional commitments to formation. The Belmont Formation Collaborative, or the BFC for short, serves as a hub to advance our institutional focus on forming our students holistically. On the screen, you can see what drives our work. Our mission, to be a catalyst in forming the Belmont community, that is students, faculty, staff, and partners, to lead with character, competence, and a commitment to the common good. I have multiple English faculty on my team. They love alliteration, turns out. Our vision, to promote an enduring culture of whole person formation in every element of the Belmont experience. And the virtues and values that drive us derive from our soul framework, which I'll say more about in just a minute. So the BFC is infused in campus in 3 ways. I know there's a lot of text up there. I'm not asking you to read through all of this, but I want to kind of give you an overview of the ways in which we are embedded within Belmont. So first, on the left-hand side of the screen in the red, you'll see the offices and initiatives that are housed within the BFC. Now, these range from efforts focused on faculty and staff development, student curricular development, and student co-curricular development. While most of our work is primarily internally focused, we also engage with external partners like, for example, the Kern National Network for Flourishing in Medicine. On the upper right-hand side, you'll see that we also help support large-scale campus-wide culture-shaping efforts, like our annual fall gathering called the Hope Summit, our annual spring research symposium called Spark, and we also help advance the Soul Framework, which, again, I'll get to shortly. Now, we certainly aren't the only ones engaged in work focusing on the flourishing of our students. And in fact, if that's the case, we're not doing our jobs as a catalyst. There are a number of offices and individuals doing great work day in and day out, focusing on the flourishing of our students. And so this list of key partners you see on the lower right certainly isn't exhaustive, but these are some of the offices that we partner with the most. Now, as I transition to this next slide, I just want to recognize that most of you, maybe all of you, don't nerd out on org charts quite as much as I do. Some of you may even see this information as irrelevant, and I understand that. But I show you this quickly and simply to note that we are intentional and connected in our whole person formation efforts. So there are now 25 people in the BFC working together as a team. A little over a year ago, there were 11 of us loosely connected in this work. Now, I also want to just own up to the fact and offer gratitude for the fact that the growth of this office has come in large part from generous grant support from external funders like the Kern Family Foundation, the Lilly-funded Educating Character Initiative at Wake Forest. And that funding has led to additional investment from the institution. So now the famous SOUL framework that I've mentioned a few times. So in the spring of 2024, I had the chance to co-lead a task force on formation and leadership across the Belmont community. Concurrently, Adam Pace, my colleague who's the Executive Director of Health and Wellness, he led a task force on mental health and well-being. A number of themes emerged from these efforts, including this recommendation that it would be helpful for the campus community to focus on some particular ways of being that exemplify what our mission looks like, that we can all understand and that we can all work toward. The findings from both of these led to the emergence of a vision that became the SOUL framework. So SOUL is a comprehensive approach to holistic or formative education designed to help every member of the campus community thrive. It's a way to articulate what we stand for as an institution in our efforts to form whole people. Now, we launched the framework in the fall semester of 2024. It's inspired by a passage in 3 John that you can see on the screen and informed by our identity as a Christ-centered institution. Each element is rooted in a character virtue, and some of them multiple character virtues, that reflects our commitment to living into our mission. It focuses on seeking excellence with humility, offering gratitude with the virtue of joy, unleashing hospitality with love, and living the dream together with hope. Now, as an institution of higher learning, the SOUL framework is rooted in and aspires to wisdom. In the first year after launching, we focused on providing an overview of the framework. And then in each subsequent year, we're focusing on one of the 4 elements, S, O, U, and L, to help provide something of like a campus theme for the year. This year, we're focusing on living the dream together with hope. Now, this framework has really taken hold across our campus since rolling it out a little over a year and a half ago. You can see it integrated across campus, not just with the t-shirts or the pin that I'm wearing or the mural that you see on the screen, but also in our classes, in our co-curricular programming, in opening convocation, in chapel series, in faculty and staff development opportunities, and on and on. Now, though the SOUL framework is relatively new, the concepts are as old as Belmont itself. And that's one of my favorite things about the framework. It's simply a new way of talking about who we've always been as a community. So I'd now like to just share a few concrete examples of recent efforts to live into our institutional focus on whole person formation. Now, I want to note that the 5 I'm going to name are efforts and initiatives that the BFC have either created or helped significantly reshape just over the last few years. This certainly isn't intended to be an exhaustive list of the work of the BFC, but instead it's intended to highlight the breadth of curricular and co-curricular efforts with our students. And I would also be remiss if I didn't pause for a moment and mention that this list doesn't name all the incredible work going on all across our campus with our colleagues. For example, partners in the Division of Student Formation, the Office of Student Success and Flourishing, athletics, and our faculty colleagues across all 12 colleges are doing great work in living into our mission. But I'll just give you a few highlights that are connected to what we're working on in the BFC. The first one I want to mention is the What's Your Why class. And there's a picture of one of the prior iterations of that class on the screen. This has served as a centerpiece of our curricular efforts related to forming our students holistically. It's modeled in part after courses like Designing Your Life at Stanford and God and the Good Life at Notre Dame. This course has taken now several hundred students through a semester-long reflection on vocation, character, meaning, and purpose. Small seminar-style classes meet separately with some of our best faculty once a week, and then all convene together for a weekly gathering guided by President Jones and the Reverend Susan Pendleton Jones, who interview exemplars and engage students' questions. BellCore is our general education curriculum. This was created in the early 2000s. It focused heavily on high-impact practices like interdisciplinary learning communities, a robust first-year seminar program, capstone courses, and on and on. And while this curriculum has done a lot to form our students over the last few decades, that we have recognized that the growth of Belmont, combined with significant changes to society, to the nature of work, and just simply our students, that it's time for some updates, right? And so we engage in a comprehensive review of our curriculum, and we're now, this is where you pray for us, are going through a large-scale revision of our general education curriculum. Pause for dramatic effect. Launched in 2020, WellCore is the co-curricular program that runs alongside BellCore. WellCore nurtures our students' capacity to live a satisfying life with a sense of meaning and purpose. And in order to graduate, students are required to earn a total of 50 WellCore credits across 10 dimensions of wellness, including intellectual, financial, cultural, and spiritual. And through this BellCore revision that we're doing right now, we're seeking to further integrate these two programs through experiences students can engage both inside and outside of the classroom. Service learning is a centerpiece of our formative education efforts. Service is one of the 10 dimensions of wellness in WellCore, and it requires all students to not only engage in community service, but to reflect on their experiences using prompts related to the SOUL framework. In addition, we have dozens of service learning courses we offer each year, pairing classes and its students with one of our over 200 local organizations that we have connections to. And through these efforts and more, our Office of Community Engaged Learning and Service, which is part of the BFC, helps facilitate over 34,000 service hours annually. Rise Strong, which we originally called FailFest, is a newly created university-wide celebration of resilience and perseverance in the face of adversity. It features workshops, interactive exhibits, keynote speakers, and on and on. We created this campus-wide program a few years ago in response to the lived experience in the research indicating that our students are increasingly less resilient, especially after COVID. Last year's keynote for this event was Olympic gold medalist, figure skater Scott Hamilton, who shared an incredible talk aptly named Getting Up After Falling. A brand new initiative within the BFC I'm excited about is our Formation Apprentices program, which takes a more intentionally formative approach to our student worker program. We piloted it just this last fall with 10 students, taking them through curated readings, assignments, assessments, all while in a mentoring relationship with our staff. We plan to grow this program not only within the BFC, which we certainly want to do, but we want to help create an opportunity for all student workers at Belmont to have more formative experiences than one might typically through a student worker program. So throughout these last almost 5 years, we've learned several lessons about our formative education efforts. And I'll give you a quick list of some of the most salient lessons learned. First, we've learned that there really is significant interest, and I've heard this echoed multiple times today, significant interest from a wide range of stakeholders, including parents, community partners, faculty, staff, donors, and our students in holistic education. This broad interest reinforced our belief that formative education is addressing pertinent personal, institutional, and societal needs. So in response to this lesson, we aim to deepen our commitment to living out our mission to be a catalyst informing all members of the Belmont community, to lead with character, competence, and a commitment to the common good. Second, we've learned that formative education is best accomplished through practices and partnership. It's no small task to educate the whole person, right? Let alone an institution full of whole people who participate in multiple communities within the university and beyond. Progress can only be accomplished by cultivating diverse networks of dedicated partners both inside and outside of the organization. We're incredibly grateful to LearningWell and other networks represented in this room for your partnership. Moving forward, a focus of ours is to further develop our engagement with external partners, including other universities, networks, K-12 schools, local churches, and community partners. Third, we've learned that forming an imagination is the starting point. It's key. Belmont's campus-wide efforts would have almost certainly struggled if we hadn't taken the time to help community members develop an imagination about what formative education might look like. By having a clear vision established by our president and other senior leaders, we've invited people to imagine how they can help live into this mission in their respective roles. In the future, we hope to further our storytelling efforts to enhance a cultural imagination for formative education, not only at Belmont, but beyond. Fourth, and certainly not least is faculty and staff engagement is key. While we're undoubtedly here to educate our students, right? We also believe in the importance of investing in faculty and staff through book groups, course releases, research and conference travel support, mini grants, stipends, awards and honors, and more. We've really been able to help cultivate a large community fully invested in formative education. This has not only created wider spread institutional focus on supporting our students flourishing in the here and now, that's certainly been the case with our faculty and staff, but we hope it does so over many years to come as faculty and staff put down roots over their careers. And in the future, we aim to continue supporting our faculty and staff in these ways, in the ways I just mentioned, but also to help them engage in research, translational and otherwise, that examines practices that help individuals and communities flourish. So as I begin to land the plane, I just want to share one more example of student formation at Belmont. I'll direct you to a picture and quote from Belmont alumna Anna Love on the screen. She was an honors student who graduated from Belmont just last year. Some of you might remember her from one of the LearningWell Leaders meetings a few years back. Anna participated in the Purpose Mentorship Program, which is an initiative we launched a few years ago that connects alumni with upperclassmen for a year-long exploration of personal and professional purpose. About her experience, Anna recently shared the following, and I quote, "The Purpose Mentorship Program played an important role in helping me clarify my values and envision a life rooted in my values as I navigated my junior year at Belmont. At a time when I felt uncertain about the path after graduation and questioned whether I was on the right track, the program provided space for reflection and honest conversation." She went on to say, through thoughtful discussions with my mentor, I was encouraged to identify what mattered most to me, embrace change with courage, and consider how my talents could be used in service to others. She then said, "These experiences helped me pinpoint a passion for financial literacy and ultimately led me to pursue a Master of Science in Finance, despite being a public relations major at the time, as a way to combine my love of mathematics with my desire to help people. I'm now pursuing my MS in Finance at the University of Minnesota on a full tuition scholarship. We'll be interning with the Bank of America in New York this summer. I credit the Purpose Mentorship Program with giving me the support and space to explore my values and create a path forward that truly aligned with them." Anna is just one example of a student whose life has been changed by our whole person formation efforts at Belmont. Anna's experience is also similar to what I described in the introduction about how Dr. Hamby helped shape my life, and similar to what I imagine each of you would describe about those who mentored you as a young adult. So with that, I'll wrap up and I'll invite you to do two things, just a few things. First off, I want you to think back to your mentors that we reflected on at the beginning. If you're still in touch, if they're still around, I invite you to send them an email or a text to say thank you. I'm guessing they don't hear that enough. Second, I invite you to think about your own institution's efforts to ensure every student is prepared to flourish in work and in life, and where you might go deeper and wider in those efforts. Third, I invite you to engage us at Belmont in conversation so we can learn and grow together. I invite you to reach out to us via email or sign up for our monthly newsletter. You can use the QR code on the screen or go to our website listed on the screen. And while we hope that the conversation continues after the conference, I also invite you to chat while you're here. So if we have time, and I don't know if we do, let's go ahead and start that now, and I'll open it up for questions. Thank you.
Hi there, this was great. Thank you for the presentation. I'm Jen Pollard from Wellesley College, and I was curious in a lot of the work that you're doing with life design, how do you connect with the Career Center, and how does career advising, thinking about their vocation and their future, then intermix with all of the programming that you're doing?
Yeah, great question. We connect very closely with them. Is Mary Claire Dismukes in the room? Oh, good. Okay, so more soon on that. But yes, so one example, I'll give you a few examples. So the Office of Career and Professional Development and the Growth and Purpose for Students Office are under the umbrella of student success and flourishing. So GPS helps with advising, especially when students are struggling, as many of us did with our first majors, as I certainly did. And then Office of Career and Professional Development does the kind of typical things that you might think about that they might do. One way that we've really integrated into the work, I'll give you two. So a few years ago, we launched what we call purpose areas. And these were areas that were what we viewed as beyond majors. So the one that I was most involved with as a communications faculty member was called Sincere Storyteller, right? And so it was for anybody that just found storytelling to be interesting. Now, a lot of people ended up being communications majors or English or in media studies or something like that. And we ended up integrating we had a survey that we used, and we would invite students as they were thinking about either their majors through the GPS office or through the Office of Career and Professional Development, their career plans, to take this survey, and we call it the What's Your Why survey, named after the class. And it was an opportunity just to give them a little bit of language to then go in and speak to the GPS office or to speak to the Office of Career and Professional Development. So it was really a merging of our mission related to whole person formation and the day in and day work that they're doing. A second and more recent example that I'll give. So we were fortunate to get a significant grant from NetView. I'm sure many of you in this room are familiar with the NetView organization. So a Lilly funded endeavor. They focus on vocational exploration with undergrad students primarily. And we recently got a grant from them that merges work in our Bell Corps, especially in the first year and last year, with the Office of Career and Professional Development. And so there's kind of this inside and outside of the classroom perspective that we're trying to work at. And so we're building that into our new curriculum, where like a requirement in the class will be to go and speak with the Office of Career and Professional Development. And so we're working with them very closely, even though they're in a different office, and they've been really incredible partners with us. Yeah, thanks.
Hi, I'm Angela Dillard from the University of Michigan, and I'm curious about why you shifted from FailFest to Rise Strong.
Yeah, great question.
As a person who is at a place where our informal motto is leaders and best.
Yeah,
champions of the West, victors. And so we're thinking about embracing failure just to cut through all of that. And I'm just sort of serious. I sense that there's a really interesting story.
Oh, yeah. There is. So, and I see Joe Mankowski back there in the back, who led that program really well, or still leads that program really well. We thought the same thing. We really wanted to cut through it, and it's a catchy name, like FailFest, right? And so one of the first events that we had, President Jones comes, and we had leaders from around campus, around tables, actually downstairs here in this building, sharing stories of failure with students who came through. And we incentivized them to come with WellCore credit, of course. And we came through, and it was great. What we learned with that language was students were allergic to it, because they were so scared of just the thought even of failing, right? And perhaps there would have been some wisdom. I mean, there's an argument to be made that we should have encouraged them to continue to lean into that. But we chose to take a more uplifting approach and kind of think about rising up after falling. And so it really, and Joe, would you agree that there was just really a strong allergy almost to the thought of engaging with something that described as failure? So again, I think you could argue either way, but that's why we did it. Yeah, because students really were often freaked out by the thought of being seen or even thinking about failing in that way. So we were trying to come at it. We're trying to soft pedal that a bit more with Rise Strong. Yeah.
All right, we've got time for one more question.
By the way, Jack was my not only my student, my advisee, and he was a rock star when he was 18. Just so you know, I can take no credit for anything that Jack does. Just so you know, he's just awesome. So just good to see you, Jack. Yeah, good to see you, Jack. Yeah.
That was terrific. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about examples from graduate and professional student formation, anything that you're working on that you're excited about. And then the other piece, if you have time, is just faculty. As you've described faculty and staff as doing formation for others, I wonder to what extent do you think intentionally about the ongoing formation of faculty?
Yeah. So I'll start with the faculty and staff, because we spend a lot of time focusing on that in our office. In fact, we had a really and continue to have a well-established student formation division. And that, by the way, that was an intentional name change that came after Greg. Typically that would be student affairs, student life, and those are all perfectly logical names, but we changed it to student formation, again, to signal clear connection to our mission. They're doing so much good co-curricular work. So that goes from residence halls to student leadership development to Greek life and on and on and on, right? Doing phenomenal work. And so we've created less student programming over the years, including for our graduate students. And so, and I'll get to that in a second, but so we overall just focus more on the faculty and staff. And so we have a lot of work, most of our work in the BFC, maybe not most of it, slight majority goes to faculty and staff. So we created an employee leadership development program. So modeled in many ways and got a lot of help from Jason Weber over here at the Texas Tech system and others around the country to create a comprehensive leadership development program for all levels of faculty and staff. And it's character-centered. And so we call it Leading with Soul. And so it's a character-centered approach to leadership. We also have really engaged under John Whitbleet sitting up here in spiritual formation for our faculty and staff. In the past, much of our university ministries work was focused on our students, which it should be, right? But we're trying to create a parallel to that with our faculty and staff. Our teaching center, Jamie O in the room, Jamie O leads our teaching center. We have had a teaching center that's been around for over 30 years. And Jamie is the director and multiple other individuals on the team are here. And we really try to take a whole person approach to teaching pedagogy, right? And so that's a ton of our time. And there are more examples, but those are kind of a few big ones. On the graduate student side, we realize, so we are 9,000 students, about 7,100 are undergrad, 1,900 or so graduate. And we realize, this is where one of those areas where I'm admitting that we haven't got it all right? There was just sort of this epiphany a while back, about exactly a year ago, that, gosh, we're doing so many things for our undergraduate students day in and day out, and that's all good, and we should continue to do that. But what about our graduate students, right? I mean, that's almost 2,000 students that we're talking about here. And so we convened a task force last summer to really take a deep dive into graduate student formation. And so since then, we've been implementing some of the findings. And just, I'll have to say, of course, as many of you, all of you, most of you in this room went through graduate school, maybe multiple times, right? And I think we can all recognize that a lot of graduate student work is done at the departmental level, at the program level, right? Especially as you get into PhD programs, right? So there aren't as many university-wide offerings. We're like, you know what? We want to see what we can do here, right? And so we've reshaped our orientation experience to build community across programs. We added an online component that focuses on mission, the SOUL framework, vision, to kind of help those students understand what we're about as an institution. We've experimented with a number of social events for our graduate students over the last little while. And so one of the biggest issues that we have learned through that task force is we offer a lot to our graduate students that's available to our undergraduate students as well. They just don't know about it, right? Because of that localized experience of graduate students. And so our new comms specialist, Grace Litzinger over there, who was a graduate student here, so she has some street cred when thinking about what grad students need. We've developed a comprehensive communication plan for our graduate students just to keep them in the know about the ways that they can use all the facilities and all the things that are available to our students. So just back to that confession, we realized that we are putting the vast majority of our effort into our undergrad students versus graduate. We're trying to rectify that now. Yeah, thanks.